use any little just mustard seed,
Yep.
something. They are willing to use it and proclaim it from the mountaintop. And here we are, quiet as a church mouse, about something. When we know that there are people who are not sleeping at night because they are waiting for you to show up. You have brothers and sisters out there who are tossing and turning at night, like hoping, wishing, praying that they had information that they can only receive from you. Like they need to receive it from you because there's something about the way you look. There's something about the way you sound. There's something about your background. There's something about you that literally only you can deliver the message. Now, be clear, the message will be delivered no matter what, because God's word, it is what it is. It's going to get out there. But to miss an opportunity to use our gifts to be a blessing, and that be something that was promoted in our church environments back in the day,
it's a mess.
Me up. You see,
it's a total mess. And I think because of the mindset too, like when I grew up with MTV music videos and all the tabloid ads, right? And I saw what the rich and the famous lifestyle was. And I thought that's what wealth was. That's what was promoted to us, whether we were in church or we were in the world, right? It didn't matter where you were hanging out. It was given to you that this is the way that you want to live. And the more that I've come into emotional intelligence, the more that I've come into mental health understanding of depression and anxiety associated to, doesn't matter what rung of the ladder you're on, that is actually inhibiting, because wealth was a lie, and wealth connected to well-being is the fruits of the spirit. And there ain't nothing on there talking about money. It's talking about patience and self-control. That don't sound fun. That don't sound like anybody's rich. But the more I've become in self-control of my finances specifically, the more abundant God has given me blessings, the more abundant and prosperous my home is, because I'm focused on my home. I'm not focused on what I'm going to do and where I'm going to be and all the other things on the outside. Yes, impact matters, but the nucleus of self, you said you, right? You would have come to the end of yourself in order for God to activate through you as the vessel you wanted to be.
Oh, I just love this. Okay.
This is truth, though. I hope people's blood is boiling.
I love it, because what comes up for me is the first pillar of redefining wealth is fit. This is a great example that is also connected to church. And fit is about becoming your best self. And so in that, I talk about what it means to be mentally and physically well, because that is the first step to reaching the financial, monetary success that you desire. There is no way to get there without actually taking care of you, right? And so another thing that comes up that I always share with people is like, listen, we get one vessel. We receive one vessel. We have a duty and responsibility. If we say that we have a vision for our lives, if we say that we know that God has called us to do something, you have a duty and responsibility to take care of the only vessel you're going to have to execute that vision.
So true.
Last I checked, they're just not swapping out full bodies.
And so not anytime soon, hopefully.
I don't want to be here when they do. So we get caught up in that. Well, I'm working in my purpose. I'm doing it unto the Lord. I'm doing all the things. And so we are in a cycle, because this culture celebrates hustle and grind. Totally. It celebrates team no sleep.
Yep.
It adores like constant achievement, constant hamster wheel. If you're not being productive, you're the worst. Like, ain't no such thing as taking a Sabbath. Like, you have to burn the midnight or
hard work or no work, right? Hustle hard to play hard. Like, no, all the things. I always speak to like the mommy needs a marg, right? Like, we work so hard, even as a mother, that we need alcohol to suppress the emotion of the fact that we're not living in purpose. And it is sad.
It's sick.
Yeah.
It's literally sick.
Yeah.
It's making people sick. And so we have all of these grand plans for our futures, but we're not taking care of the only vessel that's going to carry us to that future today. It's, you see people where they never take any time off. They don't enjoy their families. They don't enjoy any of the fruits of their labor. Like, they don't do anything. They're waiting for retirement. They retire, and a week later they're dead.
Yeah, so true. Or a health crisis comes to face to face, and they don't know how to sustain or manage it because it's so out of alignment with who they've been for the last 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And I feel that on so many levels. I think about it even from the nucleus of marriage and people not even sustaining. When I think about fit and I think about myself, I also think about my home. And if I can't steward this space that has been a blessing to me, and this was a part of my story where I remember coming home, working 70 hours a week, 2 jobs, making the 9-figure contract, right? I felt really good about this. And I had a waddling 9-month-old and a barely 2-year-old, a handsome hot hubby, the white picket fence, the whole thing, youngest in the neighborhood. And I was totally void. And I was working hard to no end. I was just on the hamster wheel. And that's what everyone is doing, to the point that they're actually not even burning calories on their hamster wheel because now everyone's sedentary, right? They're not even moving. At least before we could move a little bit. But I so desperately want for people to hear this element of wealth. I think that the most successful people, your version of success, because my version of success might be different, God's desire for our sustainability towards success of operating in the kingdom with a kingdom mindset is connected to fit. It's the whole reason this podcast was initiated before I made it an acronym to the founders, innovators, and trailblazers. And so it really is an element, and your story alludes to it so beautifully, of what you speak to: understanding purpose, understanding fulfillment, and then unlocking prosperity. But it has to start with ourselves. And it's not a vanity metric. It's not a self-love season, right? It's a coming into your identity. That's the difference between you self-serving and God working in and through you to understand who you are as a daughter or a son of the King Most High.
Yeah, I love it. Can I just share what the other part of fit was?
Yes, girl.
Not just physically fit, but also mentally fit.
Completely.
You mentioned mental health, I think earlier in the conversation. And I think that's also something that as believers, we have to take seriously and understand that mental illness has nothing to do with how faithful you are, how much you believe God or don't believe God, right? Because when people have struggled in the past, I don't know about you, but I went to a church that would tell people that they just needed to pray and that they weren't praying hard enough. And the truth is they were dealing with some imbalances or just different things. And it was like, you know, if someone says you have diabetes, you wouldn't just say pray. You would say, okay, well, do you need insulin?
Right.
Like what do you need, right? And in the same way, just wanting to encourage people to understand that it doesn't have to get to the point of full mental illness, but just that your mental health matters. Like, are you mentally fit for what it is you're praying for? And when we talk about success as an entrepreneur and career, any of those things, many of us are praying for things that we don't have the capacity to sustain mentally. There is a lot that comes with great responsibility, right? Comes all
completely
great responsibility. And are we actually mentally fit to deal with that? And one of the things that I always share, Tamra, is about growing up being the ugly one. So I always grew up with this, like, oh, you're not the pretty one. You know, you're the ugly one. You're too dark. Your lips are too full. Your eyes are too big. Everything that could be picked apart about me as a child was picked apart, and not just in school, but by people in my home. And so I grew up addicted to achievement because I knew I was the smart one. So that's how I would earn love, because it wasn't going to come through just being me, just looks. And you know, it wasn't until I was 22 that I started therapy, and it took until 25 for me to really feel comfortable even looking in the mirror without cringing. And so if you remember earlier, I also said 25 was the first year I hit 7 figures in that business. I believe that there was a connection. I was able to show up differently and be accepting of myself more, but that came through therapy. And I say that because when people look at me today, and they see my face on, like, there she goes.
all the things
on the stages, they make an assumption, right? Which I can understand now, because now I believe I'm beautiful. But back then I could not. And even 10 years ago, it was still a struggle, right? But when I look at my life today and what I've been called to do and the way I've been called to serve and the platforms I've been granted access to in order to serve, there's no way that I could, one, live out this call on my life, two, build the financial wealth that has come with living out the call, had I not gone and sat on somebody's couch and actually dealt with my childhood trauma. It doesn't matter how hard we believe. You can have great faith, but that trauma can linger. That trauma is real. And many of us are spiraling in cycles of confusion or feeling stuck and all these things and thinking that, oh, I'm just going to pray about it. I believe in the supernatural, like, power of prayer. I really do. But I believe that God has also given us so many resources to complement that. And I believe that if we say faith without works is dead, it's still our job to give God something to bless. So I go to therapy and say, God, bless that session. Be with my therapist. Like, make sure she is guiding me in the direction that you would like me to go in. And if at any point her advice is not in alignment with the assignment that you have given me, give me the wisdom and discernment to reject it as well. But I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to log in. I'm going to pay my money and I'm going to do my part, because what you've called me to do is likely greater than what I have the mental capacity to sustain. And I need to keep working on myself to be in position.